everyone. I'm Nancy Sargent Howell, formerly of Dedham. Now I live in Scituate, in a property that I grew up in the summers. But I still think of Dedham as being sort of my sole home because I lived here for 38 years. And I am thrilled to be back as part of your 30th anniversary party. I'm going to do a water media painting. I don't know quite what I'm going to do yet, because this is a new kind of adventure for me that I've been trying for a while. I started doing it mostly in acrylics, and I now am doing watercolors with collage, with drawing, with everything all together in one painting. So it's going to be an adventure for me to see what I come out with. My plan, what I usually do, is start with an old painting. I have no idea when I started this. Actually, the original painting went this way, and I can tell only because I signed my name down here, so apparently I thought it was finished. I certainly don't think it's finished now. But it's a good underpainting for me to do something on top. I'm thinking maybe I call them overlay paintings. I feel as if I am laying the new me on top of the old me. The old me, when I first started painting, is just very different now. And I don't, the new me changes all the time, so we'll see what today brings. My plan in my head is to create tulips, several tulips out of this painting. I'm going to start with just watercolor. And then I do also, actually I think I might draw a little with my water-based pencils, colored pencils, just to give you an idea of what my thoughts are. And then it's, as I say, just sort of a free-for-all. I have no idea what's going to happen. I do have a few photographs of tulips, just for some shapes. My thinking is, but as I say, I don't know if that's going to happen. My thinking is that as I say, we'll start with watercolor, draw with the watercolor crayons, start with the background, and eventually I hope the tulips will talk to me, and I may end up going in, well, I definitely want to do some collage at some point, and then maybe some acrylic. I have half of my studio with me today, a little bit of everything. As I say, the fun part is I've never done this before, this painting before. I have a general idea of what I'm going to do. Anyway, let's see what happens. So it's an adventure for all of us. Oh, I think the first thing I will do is draw a few shapes of flowers. I put a few, obviously I turned this upside down because I can see flowers better this way than I could the way it was originally done. And so I put a few lines in here just to show me, let's see, I'm going to put another tulip over here, but I think I'll do that in more like a red. Now you probably are not going to see anything except chaos for a while, but that's okay. There's the top, I'll figure that out. I think I will do the background first. I think there was a larger piece that went up here. I'll have to figure that out too. This comes down. I don't need more lines there. Anyway, I have one big tulip here, another one here, and this blue blob. How I'm going to turn that into a tulip, I don't know. But I think that's probably where I'll use some collage. Anyway, as I say, these are never planned out. I am a very intuitive painter, so I never know exactly what's going to happen until I get going. And often people say, oh, I love what you said about whatever, and I have no idea what I'm saying. I just open my mouth and here I go. But I do know that I want to get the background in first, and I'll have to see how that goes. I think I will just think about putting a few leaves in, sort of like this photograph, with some darker areas. As I say, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I want to get something in the background that I can use. Let's see. that I can either make some green leaves or just dark enough to make the tulips look lighter. So let's go. It would be nice if I covered up my upside down name up there, but who knows. I basically just use 6 colors, 2 of each primary. A yellow that pushes toward red and a yellow that pushes toward blue, a blue that pushes toward yellow and a blue that pushes toward red, each one using a little bit of the other primaries. So I'm going to start off fairly light. Oh, by the way, I guess you can see all the people that say you have to have a clean palette. Well, I don't. And they say you'll get muddy colors if you don't always have a clean palette. This is as clean as this palette ever gets. And I'm using a pretty big brush because my paints are very dry, even though today it's kind of wet outside. Well, anyway, let's just see what I start with. I just have to get myself going so I can kind of see what's going to happen. Now, when I put the green on top of the red, that's going to neutralize it. So I think what I'll do is make my green much cooler, just put some blue in it because I've got a lot of blue over here anyway. And this goes more into the blues over there too. As I said, this is just the first coat. I'm using an Aureolin yellow, which is a yellow with blue in it, and a lot of Antwerp blue. Now this on top of the red, I may just change that. Go into more blues. Antwerp blue is a blue with yellow in it. I'm also going to add some ultramarine blue, which is the blue with red in it. If I put more blue over in this corner, then it won't neutralize the red, because I do want this to be fairly colorful. I wore this poncho today because it would remind me to stay colorful. And I thought it looked like tulips. Okay, so, whoops, a lot of blue there. Okay, I have another tulip down here. Now, if I end up going, I went over that tulip already. If I end up going over some edges, that's okay. Also, those of you who do watercolors know it's not the usual way of painting to work this vertically, and the reason I say that is because there goes a big drip right down there. But I figure with this kind of painting, it's sort of a free-for-all anyway. So if I get drips, oh well, I'll figure out what to do with those later. But I have to be careful not to get too wet too soon, so that I don't want to start off with a whole lot of drips. So I have to watch that too. Okay, here I'm going to make that a little darker. Now that's darker, and I've got dark where I want the tulip to be. So that's why I think eventually I may end up doing a collage, some collage up there. Now I've got all this blue on here. I might as well just take some of this. I can't see what I started drawing, but just take some of the blue over here and have it tie into the background a little. Okay, there's one that comes down here. I think I'll go, even though there's red here, well, maybe I better stick with the blue. Just defining, by painting the negative space around the tulips, I'm going to define the shapes of the tulips themselves. You may not see this for a few minutes. Let's see, I can do, well, anyway. My brain is starting to go faster than my hand. So if I get this, now I don't know if you can see sort of a general shape of a tulip there. I think there's a piece that comes up here. Anyway, and one coming down here. Now I can start adding yellow to this again and turn it more into green as it moves down over this lighter area. I probably will have to go over this several times to get it dark enough. I wish I knew what I was thinking when I did this original painting, because there were wonderful little lines going all over the place. But I have no idea what I was doing. I probably started did the original painting, I don't know, 30 years ago. I have no idea. I used to take an abstract workshop at least once a year, and I think very abstractly, even though my paintings need to touch base with reality at some point. I've just found that myself. If I continue to do all abstraction, this is kind of some neat texture on this paper. I have no idea what that's about either, but I think I'll use that. I think very abstractly, but I seem to need to touch base with reality. Probably a good thing. Okay, so we've got another tulip over here. I might get this area greener. Well, let's finish what I'm doing first. Now, where I have this kind of purpley red area, maybe I'll go back, push a little bit more blue in here so that that kind of blends in, because I can't cover that with a green. Well, this whole thing, I think I'll just, even though it's red underneath, I'm going to turn all this into some leaves later. So, okay, well, I can still get some green and then move it into blue when I get over by the red. I have to constantly be thinking about, at this point, mostly the colors. The values will take care of themselves. Okay, that's that tulip. As I get darker, I just have to start lighter. I didn't know if this was going to bend or not, and I have some clips here, so I'll get a couple of those up on the edge. Okay, I can see another drip happening here too. I better catch that one before it lets go. Okay, so as long as I get something down on the bottom that I don't want some bright red here, but I just want something that I feel that I'll be able to play with to turn into more greenery or background later. So that's obviously why I'm thinking green. I'm trying to have some areas that have more yellow in them, some areas more blue, just to give it some variety. Okay, this will work nicely going into here. So this is all just background setup, and I'm big on negative space. I tend to see, that's the background. I tend to see the negative space quite easily. Now you can see a little bit of potential for one tulip here, another one there. Actually, some nice little tulipy shapes in here. This part I want to have greener too, so you can see the edge of this tulip that's going off the page. This is going to be interesting to see what I do with this. They say it's an adventure for me too. Somebody said to me years ago, and I just love this quote, it said, "How do I know what I mean till I see what I say?" And that's exactly how I'm feeling now. How do I know what I'm going to do until I do it? How do I know what I mean till I see what I say? Okay, this I think needs to be darker up here, just because if I get it darker and bluer, maybe I'll get a little more Antwerp blue, which is the blue with yellow in it. Get more of that up on the top. That will show the edge of the tulip. I can't really see what I have. I did a simple kind of drawing here, but anyway, that'll tie that together. Actually, having done that, I'm still going to take more of my blue with red in it onto the red, so that will just turn it purple. If I had more of the Antwerp blue, the yellowy blue, that would neutralize the red, and I don't want to neutralize yet. So I'll have to figure out the shape of that. Okay, I know I can get much darker in here. Maybe even now I'll start trying to find, darkening a few areas, trying to find what might look like leaves. So apparently I'm wanting to work on the background a little bit more. I often do that so that things get so out of whack that then I have to go back in and work on the positives. But as I said, I tend to see the negative space. Let's see, now I have to paint around a few leaves. Okay. That's a little darker. It's going to be darker again later. I think I'll pull that over this way. And this is where the two flowers come together. Now my paper is wet, so it's running down. I'd like to get another piece over here. As I said, I'm a really intuitive painter, so I don't often analyze and think, oh, I'm going to do this because. I'll try to talk about that. Obviously, that's going on in my head. But often my head works faster than my hand, so I'll try to explain to you what I'm doing. But I think, see, even now, you can start to see the feeling of a few leaves. And this one actually works quite nicely. See, that goes right up there to be a leaf. I do want to get some more dark pieces, though. Maybe I'll just make a darker piece here. Since that's got some purple in it, if I go into my ultramarine blue, oh, well, that brings that thing right down. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think I'll get rid of it. Because even though it's an interesting shape, if I were working totally abstractly, I would say it was a good thing to tie those together. But if I want this to be more tulipy, then I need to hold that space into the tulip. Okay, here's another shape I can start working with, and I'm again going to go in with the blue. That's kind of weird there. Well, maybe it's tipping over. Anyway, I'm going in with the blue because there's red underneath. And so I would get a purple as opposed to a brown or something like that, a neutralized red. Let's see how this goes up there. Okay, it's beginning to make some sense to me. I'm beginning to see the flowers. I still want to go in and build up the background a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty wet there. I did bring a hairdryer, but let's see how far I can go without it. If I could get this as dark as that, and then somehow put something in here that's light, maybe I'll make a purple. Use some of my ultramarine blue, and for a red, I would use a permanent rose, which is a red with blue in it. So I have a blue with red and a red with blue. So I should get a nice purple, even on my dirty palette. My red is so dry that that has to moisten up for a minute. Okay, so let's see if I get, if I paint something dark in here again, it is going to run down a bit, but maybe I can use this dark and spread it out somewhere up here. So thinking about more leaves. Okay, I just don't want it to run too far. I think that'll be okay. Now over here where I have sort of a neutralized purpley something, again I can go in with either of my blues. And of course blues, or anything with red in it, will make everything much darker. So a blue with red like the ultramarine will end up making things look much darker. So if I get a little bit more in here, I'm not sure what I want to do up there, so I'm just going to soften. I can see I've got some, even though I was thinking the negative space, the background, I've got some things kind of poking out, which feel like they could be leaves. Let me get back a second and see. Okay, I want to pull a little bit more down into the foreground. Here's a leaf that's bending over. So let me build that up. As I say, I'm trying to keep my eye going all over the place. Let's see if I do something like this. Then we have a petal going over there, and maybe later I'll be able to get that a little further. I'm not quite sure how this thing is fitting into it, but I just keep trusting that more ideas will come to me the farther into the painting I get. The darker I get the background, of course, the lighter the parts of the flowers are. So that's why I keep thinking I want to keep pushing that. And I want the stems here. You can't see the stem on that one. Actually, because this is in front of that one, I'll probably have to create a stem. Maybe I should do that right now. Create a stem that goes in front of that flower, because the way I've done it, I do have this flower in front of that one. Oh well. Okay, so let's put a stem in here. And I guess I'll just take it all the way down, at least to there. Okay, and then that can blend right into the background. Keep in mind, this is not all going to be logical. That little area right there is bugging me. I keep going there and thinking, because this is dark and that's dark, I can make the background darker, but I really want this to be lighter. And up here, I'd like that to be red. I think I might go to a smaller brush. My 1-inch brush is like an extension of my arm. This 1.5 I just brought because the paper is pretty big. I looked for a smaller piece of paper to do something on, but I couldn't find anything, so I kind of got myself stuck with this one. Anyway, I can see that's running down now. See if I dry the paper. You know, watercolor will run wherever there's wet paper, but if you dry it, it will stop, even at a pretty vertical angle like this, unless it's really wet. This still has to be much darker, but it also has to be drier before I can paint into it. Anyway, it's a matter of trying to control it. But back to my brush, I just figured this would get a lot of big shapes in quickly. Well, I always feel much more comfortable once I get something like my 1-inch brush in. So I want to do a little more painting. This whole area, I don't know. I keep looking at the background and then I think, well, that's not really so bad. This is the problem. Maybe I'm going to have to put a collage in. When I say a collage, what I have is a whole bunch of old paintings. Just stuff that I rip up. And actually one time, or a couple times, I have chopped up old paintings into long strips and woven them together, which is really fun. Making huge wall hangings, like 6 feet wide. My friends who saw it couldn't believe I was really going to chop up an old painting, but yep, that's what I do. Okay, here's a little red piece. See, that might be nice right in there. And actually, let's see if I can make that work to go with the background. No, I like it this way better. And I don't know about that piece. Okay, so now when you rip a painting or a piece of paper, obviously, depending how you rip it, you might get a light edge if you rip it one way, or if you rip it, this would be, well, if I rip it the other way, like that, then I get just a plain edge. This light piece might actually tie in with that if I bring it down a little bit. So, okay, I'm going to do that just because that feels like fun. And we'll hope it sticks. I just use plain old glue, Elmer's glue. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot of prisming, look, there's something on the back, another painting on the back of this. If I'm doing a lot of prisming, I sometimes moisten it a little bit so that it's mostly glue with a little bit of water. But today I'm just going to use this. Not much is coming out. I don't know why. But you'll see this is going to make a big difference. If I can figure out how I wanted it, just to get that light in there. And it's interesting. There's a purple here that's very similar, similar to what I had on this painting. So maybe I will put the purple down there, which just determines where I'm going to put this part. Okay. That's kind of fun. Now maybe I will, hopefully that will stay there, go in and put some red up on the top. The way the petals often curve over a little bit, and then it'll look darker on the inside. If I get some cadmium red, that's the only opaque color that I use. All the cadmium colors are very opaque. And so I generally don't use those in a watercolor because I like the transparency, but cad red is my favorite color. I guess you can tell I like red. Okay, so I'm figuring if I use some of the cad red, I can go over some of the colors that are underneath. I'm going to go right over this white part of the cutout too. Okay, so that gives a little bit more description to this side of the petal. And since I have this on my brush, I can maybe go into here. Let's see if I have a flower that I can use as a reference. Not really. Because I can't, well, I'll just have to make it up again. Okay, up here there can be another little part of, obviously this is a red tulip, in case you didn't already know that. Bring that down. I'm going to do another piece over here. Now that's nice and light. I look at my pictures, but then I don't really see much of them anyway. They just make me feel secure, I think, to have them around. Okay, this can be lighter there, but it'll have to be darker in a few minutes. So maybe I'll get a little bit of purple here because this is behind another petal that's going up there. And there's another little petal here. Maybe I'll use some of my cad red, throw some of the permanent rose in with it, just to change the color. And I see I have a drip coming there. If I paint this negative space, there's a big petal here and a petal over there, but I like the light on the top of this, so if I just put it darker where it sinks in behind the other ones, I can even let that drip go right over there. And if I get a little more over here, then you can see that petal popping up. But that's an area that's supposed to be a little darker. So let's see, permanent rose, ultramarine. So I'll get this a little darker in here. There, that ties some of the background in here. Go around that one. I can't figure out what's going on over there, but I can pull some dark in here. Again, more of the purple. So I'm partly trying to imagine a tulip and partly, this is the part that's so weird, and partly making something up partly using the background. So it's, I guess I should say it's more essence of tulip than a real tulip. And I've got to get, now that I have this piece of collage in here, I know that I have to get more in other places. But let's go in and create a little bit of the bottom of this. There's also, I think, some darker area in here. Okay, I'm going to do that before I get into the bottom part. Use a lot more of my red, again, the permanent rose, because I want this on top of a purple. If I put the cad red on top, it would create too much of a change. So let's see, I think this can go right over, maybe to this blue area. Even though I'm thinking tulip, more than that, I'm thinking shape, just total abstract shape that will create the feeling of a tulip. I'll put another piece in there. Here there's some blue. If I get a little darker behind that, it will make this petal pop out a little bit more. But then I have to tie this together. This is all supposed to be one. Now if I get back a little bit, I can see pieces a little bit better. It seems to me there's got to be something up here defining that, and I'm not sure how those petals work. As I say, I just make something up. But I can, since I've got a blue shape there, if I make that a little darker coming down, it'll make the other petals look lighter in contrast. Everything is relative. This piece here, even though I love that light there, it's going in the wrong direction. So maybe I'll just, I guess that has to be a little purpler here. Tie it together to this piece. And then that will push something back there back. I can also use my watercolor crayons, but then I start getting into lots of linear work, and I don't want to do that quite yet. Maybe that piece will work all right there. You can see another drip here. Let me get rid of that. And I think it's time I move away from this. I'm getting a little stuck here. If this is the top of a tulip here, that's got to be darker. So let's go back to my Antwerp blue. I have a little stuff that rolled down to the corner. If I make this darker, I can carry it from there up to here. Anyway, let's see what happens if I make this darker. Now, even though I have green here next to the red, red always looks dark. If you photograph red in black and white, it'll look black. I don't know that I want it that dark way over on the edge here. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. But if I can get my green dark enough next to the red, when you squint, your eye will just move right from one to the other, even though they're complementary colors. So it's a way of creating a soft edge, even though you're using two totally different colors. It really has to do with the value. So the red is still a little bit darker. And then as I get this darker, it's making this shape pop out a little bit more. And I don't know what that is yet, so I won't do anything until I know what to do with that. I may not have to do anything. Okay, this looks very yucky over here. I said I was going to go down to this, which I will in a minute, but my eye popped right to here. Again, if I go in with more purple, my permanent rose is falling out here. If I go in with more purple, more of a bluey purple, I think, in here. Then that will, I mean, this just looks to me like it wasn't telling me whether it was light or dark or warm or cool or anything. It was just a big nothing. And I don't like big nothings. So I'm just going to make another shape here. It may be too strong. I may pull some of that, the weight of that color over here a little bit more. Change the color, but make it a similar value, so that will read as one big shape. And it's so strong ending right there. Then let me see if I can imagine it going all the way up, maybe with some of the Antwerp blue, the blue with yellow in it, which is very much like a phthalo blue. So I'll take that all the way up. Then my eye won't get stuck right at that point. So make that one big shape. Okay, since I've done that, then I'll have to do something else over here. See if that's dry enough to work on now. I think I'll just make it dry enough. Okay, so over here I have kind of a grayish, reddish, purplish, bluish, greenish. Got the whole rainbow in that shape. But I also have that here. If I can turn this shape into a leaf that might be going out the top. Let's see, maybe I'll go back to my greens again with my aureole and yellow to keep it light or brighter, but a little bit of both blues to keep it darker. I toned down the green with my ultramarine blue because that has red in it. And the red in the ultramarine blue will neutralize the green. If I use just the aureole and yellow and Antwerp, then I have a yellow with blue and a blue with yellow, and I'll get a nice bright green. But if I want to tone it down a little bit and not make it quite so intense, if I add either just a plain red, that's kind of cool. If I either just add a plain red or something with red in it, that will slightly neutralize the green. So I can get a little darker on the bottom. So those are feeling a little leafy, which is good. Now my eye is going down here. I think I was going to that flower, but apparently I changed my mind. Let's see, if I make this a little darker here, maybe take it over there, I can get something going up, and we'll see how this works here. These drips are staying drippy for a long time. Okay, but this is beginning to pop. That's making me happy. So they say there are different kinds of people. That when you eat a sandwich, do you eat around the edge, or you cut into a steak or something? Do you cut around the edge and then eat the middle, or do you just take a bite right from the middle? And the painters often are the same way. I tend to like to go into where the focal point will be, where the most contrast will be, and then spread it out from there. Other people will just build it up very gradually. There's no right or wrong about it. It's just kind of fun to know that. So I'm feeling myself now wanting to build up more contrast in this area. And then I can bleed stuff away or out from there as I keep going. Okay, that's still kind of yucky up there. I've got the cad red on top of a blue, which is, they're neutralizing each other. This is just sort of yucky in here, so I may have to find another collage piece. And this baby down here, haven't even paid any attention to that one. Maybe I'll do that now, not look at the, no, I think I better get that piece done. So let me find something that will work with my pile of stuff here. Oh, look, there's a nice abstract piece. There's a poppy. Obviously, I've used this before. Oh, of course, I have that poppy there, too. Let's see what else I can find. This whole thing, I'm looking at this for the background, but I don't think that's going to help. I like the background being simpler. But maybe I will make a shape on the top here. Ah, there's a straight line. Oh my gosh, that might send me into prisming, just to add to an already complicated story. No, I'm not going to do that. That just adds a little more oomph up there. So I'll get that, and then I think I might go down here for a minute. Okay, try to get the glue out to the edge. I also could, just looking at my crayons, I said I can always do that too, but let's start with this. Okay, that's much better. Now, even though I said I'm going down there, before I do that, I'm going to define an edge over here with my permanent rose. See, one thing leads to another. It's so obvious how in a painting everything affects everything else. So when I put that piece up there, it made me say, okay, I want to go down to this area and get some more red here, which I can then, oh dear, that's bleeding into the green. Oh well. So I'll let it go. I wanted this to separate these petals. And I think I'll just put a little something there. I don't always know why. I just wanted to leave a little light place between these two areas. Some things are not logical. Some things are just pure emotional. Okay, I've still got that red. That makes this more important. This bringing that red over here, so I've got to get some brighter colors in other areas. So now I will go down here. Let's see, that's in front. That's going to have to be a little stronger. I can make the flower behind it, maybe mix again a little bit of both of my reds. Little cad red, little permanent rose. And there's one big petal here. Let's see. Tie that up, just paint around this petal. It can be lighter. Well, I was going to say it can be lighter on the top, but if it's behind this petal, I mean that flower, then I don't want it to be too light. I'd rather it be a little bit darker. So I just make that a little darker there, which means if there's a petal coming up here, this will have to be darker as well. So getting that darker and redder makes the, especially with a little bit of a cooler red, makes that green there pop out more. A yellowy green makes that pop. So that's a good thing. That was my intent, to get something dark enough behind it so that this would pop. Otherwise I would have to darken the stem. But that would still leave me with the issue of what to do with these petals. That can go all the way over. I think I'll make a little bit more, a little brighter red here. And as that gets darker, I can pull, I don't even know where the petal is anymore. I'll pull a little bit red into here, maybe down on the bottom to tie all that piece together. And apparently these are going to be mostly red tulips. No surprise. Very often what you put on in the morning determines the way things are going to go for you that day. If I wear a red sweater, I tend to use a lot of red. Okay, and this part in here would make sense to make that darker, but I'm not feeling like doing that. I feel, well, I don't know. Let's instead, until I decide, make this a little darker here. I somehow was wanting to make this more of a yellow. Don't ask me why. I guess just something besides all the red. I know, I can just make it orangey. So if I use some of my cad red, I'll do it down here, with some of the aureolin, then I'll get something a little more orange. And for some reason, I'm seeing some of these light areas here. I kind of like those. So I think I might go in here and leave a little light edge there. That's interesting. What that does to me now, as soon as I leave those little light places that feel a little bit more linear, it says, okay, oh, that tulip isn't so bad. Then maybe it's time to start playing with some lines, but I still have to get more collage in. Let me get a little bit more detail in this flower, break up a little bit, a few more petals in here. And then maybe I'll hunt for something to put a little more collage in, because obviously I've got to get more in there. This can come around here, bump up next to that flower. It may drip down, but oh well. And I can get a little bit more, break something up here. Maybe I'll leave a little light edge again there. I don't want to lose too much of my lights. Okay, so this one still is coming down here. And you've got a little bit stronger color, a little more intense as it comes down here. And then I want to block it out where that's run down over this area here. I can always rub that out later. And then this part, this flower, I can start putting a stem there and maybe have that disappear till I figure out what to do with the foreground. Maybe this is the place to start getting some collage happening in here. Okay, see, my eye is definitely going there. That's where I've put most of my energy, and it's showing. So I want to bring some down. Let's see what I can find for some greens. Oh, I found this one earlier. I'm not sure how that would... Well, that's not so bad right there. To think about which way to rip it. Carry some of the red down. I don't know about that line there. Maybe I'll stop before I get there. I think I'll do that. This part I can use someplace else. Let me just do this. See, this is where it gets just kind of crazy, because it's not so much logical. Except that I did go into a greenish tone, something that's more like the background. That's about the only logical point. But that's also half the fun. You know, if you do everything in a safe way, it's not half as much fun. One of the great benefits of getting older, I've decided, is that you can do whatever you want. I've followed the rules enough, and I'm still very much a rule follower. But, you know, it's fun to take a risk like this. Nobody says I can't do it. Doesn't mean everyone's going to like it, but if I'm having fun, who cares? Now I have to see if that's going to stick. I'm not sure that this will be long enough to go across to hold it. Maybe. Oh, good. Okay, I'll just keep pushing that down. These are hanging in there, okay. But see, that just gives us a different texture, but the same colors here. Now I am seeing an edge there. This is where my love of prisming comes in. Although I also saw this. This would be great to put somewhere too. Like there. I do need something down here. Let's see if I can get another clip and hold this down. Usually if they're held for just a few minutes, they'll do okay. Yeah, I kind of like that pops up that area, and I'm starting to move down. I need a vertical down here. So I might look for something else to put down in that corner. No, I think that's the way I saw it. Again, I've got these light edges, but I can always paint right over those. Okay, let me see if I can find something in my mess here. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? But I want something in this corner. I'm going to save that. Oh, here's a fig leaf. Probably it was a painting I did in Italy. Those of you who have come with me. Oh, look at that. Is that not cool? So I want to rip it down here. I haven't been able to get back to Italy. Not last year, obviously. I think I'll take that all the way up. I don't know about this year. I've been 39 times so far. And I really wanted to hit 40 anyway, but we'll see what happens. Okay, that's really fun. I like that. Okay, and then that'll hold me for the collage for a few minutes. I'll go back to painting. Or maybe, well, I'll have to see, in order to get some line work in here, I have to get enough, some plain areas. I'm not always getting the glue right out to the edge. Is that the way I had it? No, I had it this way. That's kind of fun. That just sort of ties a lot of these pieces together. Let's see if I can do two at the same time. That one's coming off. Oh, I can always tape. That's why I brought my tape. You never know how or when I'm going to use tape, but this might be a perfect time to just put a little piece around the edge here. Hold that down. Might do the same thing over here. And up here. Just hold it down long enough so that it really sticks. And if it doesn't stick, I'll do that later. Well, I guess because that red is so strong. So, let's see, I can't work here now. So I'm going to make this much redder down here, much brighter. Get more of the cad red in here. You can see how bold that is when it goes on. It's just pretty intense. But that'll help to bring my eye from here down. And then I don't want to put red in my green areas. Just because I have a nice rhythm of red going here and down, and it just feels like a natural extension for me to take it down further. Maybe into the background. I can rationalize that there's another flower in the background. Like, I don't know. Oops. Well, apparently something is taking my red down for me. Okay, I better not worry about that too much now. Let me go in with some do your knowns. Before I started painting, I did a lot of needlework. Embroidery. That's actually what kind of led me into painting. A lot of embroidery, and I still do tons of needlepoint and knitting and all that stuff. But when I did the embroidery, the teacher in Dover always said, do your knowns. And I think that is such a good thing. If you do what you know you have to do, the rest will take care of itself. Get a little bit more red up there. No, I don't want it all the way around the edges. So I know that if I just keep my eye running around, this area can be much darker here. Maybe this whole thing is going to be darker, which will make this part of that stem pop. Let's see. I'm trying to see if this is going anywhere. Do I need to just make a shape like that rather than, yeah, maybe that's going to work. No, except I want something like that. This will carry the dark down. Okay, now I can just start seeing some negative spaces. Like that. That'll carry my eye down. That's looking like a finger pointing out, so I have to be careful that that doesn't point down too far. But this really messy place, one of the first things I think I did, I can go in now, I think, with a little bit of both of my blues, even though I like the idea of the greens tying together. But, you know, I see this line here, for example. So if my eye continues that down, even if it has nothing to do logically with that line, it's just a way of carrying my eye down. Actually, even just that little bit is pretty good to get it darker. And I can get a little darker in here too. And should I carry some of these? Now I'm going to tell you that these tulips are in a garden. They're not all by themselves. And so there are lots of other leaves and things happening in there too. I just figured that out. I was just thinking about tulip leaves, but I thought, no, wait a minute. I started, if I carry some of this down through, who's to say there aren't weeds in the garden? If it's my garden, there are probably lots of weeds. Okay, so now I've got this going over here. Oh, this is a tulip. I was going to go into the background there, but I can't do that. I think I can take this off. Put this down here, see if I can hold this a little more. Okay, so I've still got this issue of, that can come off now, of this tulip over here, the blue tulip. If I, however, go in, if this is a petal coming down here, there's a line there. So if I paint it darker down back in here, maybe with more of my purple again, then it's going to make this look lighter, which I like the idea of. So I'm going to try a kind of reddish purple here. Let's see what happens. That'll make that much lighter. And then maybe I can just bleed this up a little bit. So this is doing two things. It's giving me a lighter petal here, and it's also bringing a little bit of red down, even though it's a very cool red. That may now affect what I have here. There's a line there. I made this much darker. What if I go in with just more red on top of this shape? I don't know if that's part of the flower behind it or what. So let's just change that shape a little bit over here, so that the petal kind of goes up that way. Bring a little red there, see if that can be, that's all a little bit darker coming down here in the back, then it's going to make the tulip itself look lighter. All relative. You know, today if we say, oh, I wish it was 65 degrees, that would feel really warm. But if I say that in July, we say it's cold. So as I say, everything is relative, lights and darks. I have to watch my time here. I've got to bring some pieces together. I want things much darker down here. I need to do that. If I do that, maybe the background up there isn't going to be so bad. But I still think it would be kind of fun to go in and play with, do some drawing. This isn't sticking very well. But, okay, so let's get some darks down in the bottom, give it some weight. I'm going to get some blue. I don't want everything just to come out from one place, but maybe that's the way it's going to be. I do want to extend this blue down a little bit, and I can cover up some of my white there. Get that a little weightier. I don't know what that stuff is all about there, but let's see, if I put a little Antwerp up here, it might look as if that little piece, anyway, it sort of takes your eye over to here, but I do need to get some more weight here. I know I need to get it darker around this tulip, so let's go in with a little bit of both of my blues again, because if I want this to pop out, I just have to have a whole lot more color, a whole lot more value, darker value. To make this look lighter and brighter. If I make the darks cooler, this is going to look warmer. So I'm doing one thing in order to make something else happen. Even though I said I wanted to pull more darks down here and there. Pull more darks down here. Something I keep wanting to go across somehow. That's wet there. I'll pull a little bit more of this dark, redo what I did before, just make that a little darker. Over here, up around my fig leaf. It just feels like a tree trunk or something there, and I'm having a problem with that. So I somehow need to break that up. So if I do that, that's the same kind of brushwork that I have up here, which is kind of geometric and which I am liking a lot recently. just simple flat strokes. So maybe I can just take some of this over here. Let's see, rather than, if I use that line, I want some horizontals. So let's see if I can do something to get your eye going over that way. I think that might help me. I have that edge there. I'll bring it up here. Okay, and that's creating another line going over there. So if I can get your eye going there, this is just boring in here. But I think that's better already. I don't know what that's all about. Take that off. Okay, I can keep pulling some of this up here, bring that down, repeating these textures and brush strokes. Okay, now I can imagine going over to here. This might be kind of wet. I don't know if it'll stay there, but picking up this edge and carrying it around, maybe even over here, just to get that a little darker. Okay, but that gives a big swoop there. I think I'll carry this one down. So bring my eye back down again. Need a little more paint. So that used to be quite red, and now it's turned blue. Okay. This feels really blank now, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of this sort of geometric stuff over here. Let's see, make it that way. This feels like a shadow here. That could be a little bit darker to pop the flower out again. I'm still wanting more red down here. I said that a long time ago and it just hit me again. This leaf, oh, this is wet here. I better not do that. I'm say make this one redder. Well, maybe I can just do a little bit. See how it goes. Just get a little hint of red down there. See how that works, and that'll tell me then if I need more. So I have a little hint of red on the top, so why not just make it a little stronger there. And put some red on top of this thing that was blue. And a little bit more. Down here. Why not? The only way to find out is to try it. If you just keep worrying about it and say, well, what if I ruin it? You're never going to know. This looks kind of blah over here. I guess that's not really so wet. So I'm going to get some more darks coming around here. I see that thing that almost feels like a shadow to me. So that would be, if I get that darker, then the tulip itself will look lighter. That's not dark enough. Now that may end up looking almost like another tulip over there. I'm counting all this running down. Whoop. Well, maybe it is part of the tulip, who's to say? It's just sort of a lopsided tulip. Okay, but now that I've got that dark there, I want to make some darker. Let's not get a drip there. Some darker over here, maybe with just some Antwerp blue. Maybe those are all going to tie together. It's so funny standing here all by myself, saying all that. I keep expecting someone to say no or yes or whatever. It's very strange to paint all by yourself. Pretty much all by myself. There are people here, but nobody's talking to me. Okay, that upper part up here, we certainly have an overall pattern, that's for sure. This part, there's not a lot of value contrast up there. And I'm thinking maybe, it's amazing, I've done all this without any acrylic. I was afraid I would have to go into acrylic. I'm trying to paint over my upside down name up there. A little bit more yellow there will help to kind of take a yellow pattern through. It's wild to go from yellow to purple, but it's, as I add yellow, it's getting a little greener and will be more consistent with what's down below. Okay, now I can see some darks kind of running through here. I can get a little bit more dark here and going up here. Now once again, if I make this darker, it's going to make the lights look lighter, which is what I was wanting, a little more contrast up there. And by making it the Antwerp blue, it will kind of stick in the green family, the Antwerp being the blue with yellow in it. But I hope you can see how this is just a building process. And, you know, paintings can be done at so many different stages. You know, I may get home this afternoon and see something, see a lot more that I can do. Kind of want to tone this down over here. I've got that purple that's still wet, darn. Well, maybe I'll still mix up a little bit quieter green, but still with more yellow in it. I can just glaze over everything. I just miss that purple area. Maybe I'll be all right. Just knock this down a little bit more. And I'm seeing all the white. I also still have tape here. I hope this stays on. We'll find out. I've got tape all over the place. That's going to affect everything too. Good. That one's done. So I can knock some of that white down with a little more green. A little more here. Take this tape off. And I might, just for the sake of it, oh, that's not even tape. Okay, I still want some more darks down and a few more areas coming down. So I think what I'll do is go in a little bit more. This is still damp from before, but get some ultramarine blue in there because that's darker. And if I just paint the top, it'll run down to the bottom. Hopefully not enough to create a drip, too much of a drip. And over here I want this darker. I keep thinking I'm almost done, and then I see one more thing, just one more thing, just one more thing. Get that a little darker there, which then takes my eye over here. Now, I don't want your eye to totally fall out the bottom there. But at the same time, I like the idea of having some darker areas. Let's see, maybe there's one over here too. Rather than that, I'm going to do one here. I see, I think from some of the original drawing I had from the last painting, there are a few little lines there. I need some more dark here. This much as I love that texture, I do think it needs a little bit more breaking up here to get your eye going down a little more. Yep, got to get rid of that. Yeah, that helps. In fact, it needs even a little bit more. I'll fatten it up a little bit more there. So that almost feels as if there's a leaf or something going all the way down there. Oh, this is a very weird shape. I just made that. I was going to say, I wonder why I didn't see that. Well, it's because I didn't have it. But that little rectangular thing is ridiculous. So I think I'll just put some Antwerp blue on that and knock it down. So now what I thought was wonderful for the collage, now I'm just changing that. I've got to change this shape here. That's better. Okay, I can't imagine. Actually, even my blue tulip, that's surprising me. That's not bothering me too much. I thought it would. I thought I would really have to make a lot of red up there. I can make a little bit of an edge here, but I don't want to lose that light. Let me just look at my crayons here. Water-soluble crayons are just wonderful because you can put them on either a wet surface or dry surface. If you don't like the marks that you make, you can just add water to them and blend them around. So they're just really fun to play with. I don't have a whole lot of collage. I can imagine a little bit more here. This blends in so much I'm not even reading it as collage. And that upper left corner, okay, that's still pretty boring. So let's see if I can jazz this up a little bit more. I can still see my upside down name, but that's all right. Give it a little sparkle up here. That's just with yellow. Very often when I do something, warm, I put a cool mark. Like if I have something orange, I'll put turquoise by it. Having said that, why don't I do that like over here? Put a little turquoise edge there, and maybe it comes right down there. Let's see, I can imagine a little turquoise there. Yeah, this part. Now what would happen if I just turned this whole thing into sort of part of the tulip, or reflecting some of that tulip shape till it gets down to the turquoise. That's the stem from here. I sort of lost that. It almost feels as if there's another stem there. Still want more bright red, but I think I'm just about out of time. So you know what I'm going to do is try putting a mat on this now and see what it looks like. As I say, this is something I may work on a lot more later. See if I can take this up. But I think it gives you, hopefully give you an idea of just taking something and turn it into something. So let's see how that is with the mat. Unfortunately, it's not ideal, but it's wild, that's for sure. See, I always see one more thing, just one more thing. I kept saying I wanted more red down here. Well, here we go. Oh, I've got to take this off. That will help. I don't know if you can see it well because I can't hang this perfectly on the painting. It's just sort of dangling on the top, but it gets the idea. Still want to pump this up a little bit more. If I had something super bright red, like my poppy. Just one more shot of red. Only with that poppy texture there, I'm not sure that's going to work. Maybe just that little bit will make a difference. Just make me a little bit happier. And as I say, I'll probably get home and think, oh my gosh, how could I not have done one more thing here or there or wherever. Now I'm going to have to make that white part darker. And then I think I really am going to walk away. I keep thinking I'm going to, and then I come back and see one more thing. That's why it never stops. Okay, that does make me feel better. In fact, it makes me feel so much better. I wonder if I can get away with putting one here. The center of that poppy is, oops, is still taking away rather than adding. So maybe that's the way it's going to be. Nope. I think it's time for someone to tell me I have to go home now. I'm going to put it right there. But it's obviously not sticking very well now. Just stay. That little shot makes me feel better too. On and on we go. Little shot of yellow. It turns into green. Anyway, I think I'll leave it alone now. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to all being together again very soon.